Good afternoon. Welcome to today's webinar, Marketing Your Value, which is brought to you by the American Astronomical Society, the Society's Employment Committee, and the speaker, Alaina G. Levine. Thank you all for joining us today. The disembodied voice that you hear is me, the Society's Director of Membership Services, Diane Frendak. Hi. Before I turn it over to Alaina, I'd like to review the usual GoToWebinar items. And first, everyone in this webinar is in listen-only mode. However, you are strongly encouraged to share your questions by typing them into the questions pane or in the box in the control panel. I will collect the questions for a Q&A session at the end of today's presentation. And please note that this webinar is being recorded and will be posted on the AAS website in the next few days. Okay, and now let me introduce our speaker. Alaina G. Levine is an award-winning entrepreneur, STEM career consultant, science journalist, professional speaker, and corporate comedian. Her book, Networking for Nerds, beat out Einstein for reals, for the honor of being named one of the top 5 books of 2015 by Physics Today magazine. She writes Your Unicorn Career, a career column for the AAAS publications Science and Science Careers about finding your professional bliss, and is a frequent speaker for the AAS. And now for the main event. Alaina, please take it away.
Thank you, Diane. Appreciate your support, and thank you to the American Astronomical Society for your kind support and advocacy of these types of career development and job searching and job planning and career planning webinars. Hello, astronomers, astrophysicists, planetary scientists, cosmologists. You guys are amazing. I am so excited to be here today. I've had 3 cups of coffee. I guarantee I will have another cup while we're pursuing this career topic today. This is an interesting topic. We're talking about marketing our value. And before we go into details about what that is and how to do it, I want to allay your fears. When we talk about marketing, what we're talking about is articulating the value that we could provide employers, collaborators, a PI, a mentor, even proteges, our colleagues. It's all about what problems can I solve for you? What problems do I have expertise in or knowledge about to be able to solve? And so when we talk about marketing, I'm going to use the word marketing, I'm going to use the word self-promotion, I'm going to use them interchangeably. What we're talking about is nothing dirty. We are talking about only honorable marketing, only honorable self-promotion, because it is built on a spirit of generosity, just like networking is, right? Remember, networking is all about crafting win-win alliances where we're both providing value to each other. Well, we can't network effectively to build collaborations, to build opportunities for ourselves, our colleagues, and our community if we are not operating with a spirit of generosity with the aim of trying to see what it is that I can do to help you. Well, if I'm going to find out what it is that I can do to help you, I need to communicate what it is I can do, right? I need to be able to articulate that very carefully, and I need to be able to do that in the language of the community in which I'm operating. So that's what we're talking about with marketing. And make no mistake, you are already marketing. You are already doing it yourself. I am sure that many of you, if you could raise your hand, here's a poll question for you. How many of you have ever wanted to or have published a paper on your research? And I'm sure every hand goes up, right? Because whether you wanted to or you did, your hand goes up. And how many of you have ever given a talk or a poster or would like to give a talk or a poster at a virtual conference or at an in-person conference? Again, I know every hand is going up. Well, you know what? Those are marketing channels. When you write a paper, when you give a talk, when you give a poster, even when you're talking to somebody one-on-one, you are communicating your value. You are sharing what skills you have, what types of problems you'd be able to solve, what you could potentially do to help them move their agenda forward. That's the honor that we're talking about. And that is cross-cultural. So it doesn't matter which nation or which culture you come from or you're operating in. There, of course, are slight differences. There are, since I shouldn't say slight, there are in some cases very specific differences in how we communicate our value, right? I wouldn't necessarily communicate my value or use the words that I would use in the United States if I was going for a job at a university in the US to communicate my value at, let's say, a poster session to share what it is that I could do if I was to join that department. that would be different if I was going for a job in Denmark or a job in India or a job in Japan. So there are cultural differences, but for the most part, the fundamentals are the same. And that's the universal nature of communicating our value, of marketing our value, because it is based on that spirit of generosity. So we're going to go into that. I'm going to give you some more details, but I just wanted to share with you that's hashtag spoiler alert, because you're so awesome. Now, speaking of hashtags, as usual, you are welcome to live tweet this talk, and I welcome you to do so. Use the handle for the organization, AAS_office. Use my handle so I can retweet you. You're welcome to take photographs of any of my slides and post them on the internet. It's fine with me, on the interwebs, wherever. And please join me on LinkedIn. Connect with me on LinkedIn, because this is the way that I communicate, I market information and tools and resources to people around the world that oftentimes are free to help you career plan. So this is how I announce free webinars and give information about free articles and templates and tip sheets and all sorts of different resources that ultimately are going to help you land your dream job and explore what your unicorn career could potentially be. You don't even have to customize the invitation on LinkedIn. Okay, so today what we're going to be talking about are marketing fundamentals, how to actually identify our value and communicate it, crafting a value statement, and then we're also going to talk about some very specific marketing channels that I want you to be thinking about to up your marketing game. The goal here, when I'm talking about marketing our value, the goal here is to find new collaborators, to potentially get you a job in the future or now if you need it, to build your network and grow and invest in your network. It is all about community building. If you don't champion your value, if you don't know your value, first of all, and then champion it to others in the most appropriate way, then the reality is that how are they going to know that they should hire you or engage you or collaborate with you? And so that's what we're talking about. The fundamentals, what I've found is that many scientists and quite frankly, STEM educated professionals in any types of careers. And remember, I'm a STEM educated professional myself. My background, as many of you know, is mathematics. I have another degree in anthropology. I started out in astrophysics and then was seduced by the dark side and got my degree in math, but I've never left the physics and the physical sciences community. It's like the Godfather. Once you're in, you can't get out. But what I wanted to say is that most STEM educated professionals, no matter their career or sector, tend to undervalue themselves in the career marketplace and therefore undermarket and undersell themselves. It's really interesting to me. A great example of this is I was on a panel. In fact, I organized a panel many years ago when I worked for the University of Arizona, and the panel was called Women in Science and Business Dialogues for Success. And so I invited women leaders in different sectors who mostly had a science and engineering background or were leading science and engineering enterprises to come and talk about different areas of their success and how they have achieved success in their fields and in their sector and in their organization. And we were talking about marketing ourselves. And somebody had asked a question, can you talk a little bit about this concept of self-promotion and marketing? And a professional on the panel, one of the leaders, she was, I believe, a provost for the University of Arizona at the time. And she's, I believe, a neuroscientist, if I recall, definitely a bioscientist of some kind. But she was saying that one of her proteges, she had written a letter of recommendation for one of her proteges to get a Fulbright grant. And many of you know the Fulbright Fellowship Program. It allows you to work and study and do research abroad, cross-cultural, across the world in different nations. And so her student, her protege, had gotten this, and the protege did not tell her mentor, this particular leader, because the protege thought it was bragging. The protege thought it was bragging. And the leader's point when she was sharing the story was that, first of all, if somebody writes you a letter of recommendation and you get the item that they recommended you for, you tell them and you celebrate with them. That's not bragging. That is sharing in the good news that you have achieved with their assistance. And they're going to be thrilled to be able to share that excitement and that joy with you. So certainly do not hold back on that. But the second point that she was trying to make is that particularly in the sciences, and more specifically, interestingly enough, for women and underrepresented minorities across all professions, we tend to undervalue and therefore undercommunicate and articulate and undermarket ourselves in the career marketplace. And so this protege, she did not feel comfortable sharing it with her mentor. And so you sharing with a mentor, in particular with a mentor, but other people, something unique about your value, some credential that you have that would allow you to solve a problem for that party, or to inject value into that team, or to fill a gap or alleviate a pain point in that research group or in that organization or in that project or program, whatever it is that you're going for. That's totally appropriate if we do it appropriately. I'm going to show you how to do that momentarily, but the idea is that you have to stand up for yourself. You have to say, I did get this Fulbright. I do have this Fulbright, and I'm going to utilize it so that I can build my skills in this area and expand my network, and perhaps do stronger research, explore new research problems, and maybe even do improve my educational and my teaching and my pedagogical skills while doing some targeted outreach in the nation that I'm going to be working for if it was a Fulbright. So we have to make sure that we know our full value, the full extent of our value, and then communicate that as such. Now, it doesn't mean that we spill it out. We don't vomit it out in front of everybody and say it immediately when I meet you. It's not, I'm awesome, hire me. We're not doing that. That is not appropriate. That is not professional in any shape or form. But what we are going to do is develop a method where we can communicate our value in such a way that other people will understand how we could add that value, how we could utilize that value to help them. Remember, spirit of generosity, we're helping another party. But what I do want to say is that STEM educated professionals, it's very important for you to know that you are essential to any enterprise. And in fact, you are essential to society. And the reason I say this, and the reason I put this in the marketing webinar, is because I want you to be thinking about how important you are to our community, to our global community, to our local community, wherever you happen to live. I want you to understand why you are essential in society. Think about this. As a scientist, no matter what type of work you're doing, you're looking to discover information and uncover puzzles and reveal data about the mysteries of the universe, right? That's what you're trying to do. Well, you know what? At the core of every organization, of every service, of every product, of every enterprise, whether it's a university or research institution or something in the private sector like a company, a startup, or even a foundation, at the core of everything that we do is a scientific discovery and or an engineering innovation. Absolutely everything that we do is centered on science and engineering. That means that you, as a scientist and as a science educated professional who understands the role science plays in the universe and the role science plays in society, and as somebody who is trying to improve your communication skills so that you can bridge the gap and share with society and with other parties, including potential employers and collaborators and colleagues, what the importance is of the work that you're doing, of the scientific work that you're doing, as well as perhaps even inform society and other people about other types of science because you have the skills to understand it and interpret it. This is essential. We absolutely need you. And you are doing this. And it's truly amazing to me when you think about scientists and engineers like yourselves that you chose this career, you chose this profession. This shows me that you're bold, this shows me that you're brave, and it also shows me that you are generous of spirit, just in and of itself, having chosen to study and pursue a career within the astronomical sciences, because what you're doing is you're serving society with that. So if at the center of everything, this hub, you are at the center because you are the discoverers, you are the innovators. I want you to take this one step further and realize that nothing happens in society on the planet Earth until new ideas and discoveries are converted into a solution and or a tool that can be utilized or commercialized. Now, when I say commercialize, I mean two things. I do mean products that people buy, like my cell phone obviously has extensive scientific and engineering innovations and discoveries associated with it. My hair, my curly hair, this is not natural, people. This is all engineering and scientific discovery, thanks to you. And my hair and my spirit, thank you for your assistance. But I also don't just mean the commercialized products that we actually exchange money for. Or money in the form of actually buying a product or a service. What I also mean by commercialized or utilized is the research that you do in your research groups, the labs, the experimentation, the theory, all the observational astronomy, everything that you do in astronomy and astrophysics and planetary science, and as an astronomical sciences trained or educated professional, no matter where you end up going, everything you do has commercialized ramifications. In other words, you're contributing to our knowledge of the universe. That is a tool for us to understand our place in the universe. It is a tool for us to better understand and make decisions in society about what we want to do. So the reality is that your science and your scientific research does have a commercial value, both from a product perspective, but more importantly for many of you in listening to me today who want to go into research careers, it has a commercial value too, because you are contributing to the growth and enhancement of society through your research content, through the research outputs, through the work that you're doing in astronomical sciences. So that is essential. So that puts you, because you are essential in that way and your contributions are at the center of everything, that puts you in truly a very exciting, powerful, and empowered position for yourself. And it proves my point unequivocally that you truly are an astronomy goddess and god. The universe does revolve around you. But that doesn't mean that we can't and we shouldn't communicate our value to others. We still have to communicate it, because other people, including potential employers and collaborators and even granting agencies, might not necessarily understand the essential nature of the work that we're doing. And what is our essentiality? It comes in the form of the work that we're doing. It comes in the form of the actual outputs and outcomes that we're producing. And that could be the actual research outputs, but it's also everything along the line. So it's all the skills that you're gaining to learn to solve these problems. It's the problems that you can and are able to solve. It's your commitment to the enterprise, to your organization, to your team, to your community, and that includes your field and subfield as well as your regional community, and to the ecosystem, to the society at large. Your essentiality is also tied to your dedication to advancing the mission of your enterprise, and your attitude and your ambition. And of course, it also is tied into your talent, your intelligence, your creativity, your ingenuity. It's really all this package. So when we talk about communicating the essential nature of the work that we do for society, as I mentioned, marketing, it's not a dirty word. It's just communicating what it is that we can do to further society in a non-cocky way, in a totally professional and appropriate and authentic way. And the reality is, as I mentioned, you're already doing this with your papers and your posters and your speeches and your anything that you are producing, and any conversation that you are marketing your value. There's another way to think about this. You may have written or been on a grant proposal, or maybe you were part of a team that helped write a grant proposal. This grant proposal that you wrote, did you say, basically the body of the grant proposal was just a few lines? You said, I'm studying this area of cosmology, and I think you should give me $5 million because my work is amazing. Love, Alaina, or love Dr. Levine. I'm not a doctor, but that you might say doctor, right? So the idea is, did you say that? Is that what you said? Is that how you wrote your grant proposal? Of course, the answer is heck no. You wrote a grant proposal in the following way. This is the problem we are trying to solve. This is the solution we propose. This is the potential results and ramifications and next steps from this solution. And this is why this problem that we're endeavoring to solve is so important in our community and in our field and in our society right now. This is, you also said, why you are uniquely positioned to do this research, why you are uniquely positioned for success if you were to be given this grant to conduct this work. What I'm just describing to you right now is a marketing document. You're communicating your value every step of the way, and you're communicating all of these elements of your essentiality to this project, to this research endeavor. And so you're already doing this. You're already marketing yourself. I'm saying, let's up your game. Let's move that. Let's raise the roof, y'all, and let's get you to the next level so that you feel more comfortable, more confident, and in your marketing. And you also have specific ways that you can do it that are appropriate for our community of STEM, your community of astronomy and astrophysics and planetary science, your subfield, and also your community, your regional community where you live on this earth. What I have found with self-marketing and self-promotion is the more we do it, the more we're aware that we're doing it, the better we will get. And the better we get, and the more we do it, the more game-changing career opportunities you will be able to create for your partners and collaborators, for yourself, for the two of you together, because you are always looking to create new things together when you come together in a collaboration, and ultimately to serve the community as a whole. It's very important. What I've found is that the best marketers, the people who have the most skill with this, do it all the time, and they do it in such a way that it doesn't feel to themselves or the other party that they are doing a sales pitch, because that's not what it is. It's just communicating what it is that you can do. But you use appropriate channels for successful return on investment, right? You are investing in the time and the energy and the thought process and the neurons to come up with ways to better articulate what it is that you could do for another party. We're always looking to save resources, and that includes time, and I definitely need to save my neurons. So I'm looking for successful return on my investment. I want to see how I can get something back in exchange, not at the moment. Not necessarily at the moment. And remember, because we are operating under the spirit of generosity and what can I do for you, not what can I get from you. But the reality is that all engagements, all partnerships are win-win, where we're both exchanging value. So I want to see what type of return on investment I can get as I am engaged in this type of marketing activity. You will be marketing what I call you incorporated or me incorporated our entire lives. And the reality is that no matter what your job, no matter where you are in your career, as an undergraduate, as a graduate student, a postdoc, you might be just beyond your last degree or training experience. You could be mid-career, you could be pivoting into another career or another industry or another sector. You might be an established leader. But no matter what, you will always have what I call clients. Clients are people, different parties that you need to market your value to so that they will invest resources in you. And of course, in a job environment, the resources that the other party is investing in you, those resources are your salary, right? You're the benefits that you get from doing the job and the salary and the ancillary benefits that come in that role. So your boss, your supervisor, your PI, or your department head or dean, or even your advisor, these people are like clients. You have to constantly make sure that they understand what your value is to the project, to them, to the opportunity that you're trying to create together, and how that translates to advancing their mission and the mission of the larger enterprise. You have to constantly do that. You will also potentially have actual customers, meaning people who are giving you actual money. So that could be students who are paying the university, for example. That could be granting agencies who are giving you money in return for a product, right? The product is your research. The service that you are doing in terms of the research, the outputs that you're going to be providing are going to be useful. For everybody, whether you achieve the goals of the problem or not, or achieve the goals of the project or not, you are still providing something of value to the community. So other types of clients could be colleagues, it could be business partners, vendors even, students, postdocs, proteges, mentors. But the bottom line is that to keep your job or to get your next job, and to get your next job, whatever your next job is, or to get your next postdoc appointment, you always have to communicate and amplify your value. So let me give you a very specific definition of self-promotion. And some of you have heard me say this before, but I want to just share it with you again in case you didn't hear it in a previous webinar. So when I talk about self-promotion, and this is the essence of the marketing that we're talking about today, I am not talking about bragging, as I said earlier today. We never brag. We also absolutely never embellish. We never lie. We just give the full extent of our value. We share the full truth about ourselves. So here's what self-promotion is, and then I'm going to give you an example of how that might unfold. First of all, it happens in an appropriate form and ecosystem. So me posting, for example, on LinkedIn, an article, even an article that I personally wrote, or an announcement about a webinar that I'm going to give, that is appropriate because that's what LinkedIn is designed for. LinkedIn is designed for two things which are interwoven. You cannot separate them. LinkedIn is designed for networking and self-promotion. That's what it's for. So when I post an article or a webinar announcement on LinkedIn, I am communicating something of value to the community that would be of value to the community. This webinar will help people in terms of their career planning. This article will give them tips about how to interview virtually or what have you. This is appropriate for me to do this here. It's an appropriate form, it's an appropriate ecosystem. The second thing I'm doing is I'm always communicating truthful information. I'm being my authentic self, and I'm communicating truthful information about what it is that I do, or what it is that I could provide, or what types of problems I could solve, or what types of skills I have. What I'm doing when I'm engaged in marketing and self-promotion is I'm trying to provide you with strategic information about my value that is designed to encourage you to make a decision to engage me further in a positive manner. So let me give you my classic example of this. This is a metaphorical example, but there's some facts associated with it, and I'll tell you in a moment what they are. So let's say we are at a virtual conference, and I start talking. Let's say we're at the 237th the 237th meeting, the winter meeting of the AAS, which is going to be virtual, as you know, coming up. And let's say I meet you, I see you speak. Let's say you give a plenary, and I see you speak, and I message you through the platform afterwards, and I say, I really enjoyed your speech. Would it be possible to talk with you for a few minutes, either during this conference or maybe at a later time? We could set up a WhatsApp or a Zoom appointment. And so we do. We set up a 15-minute appointment, and I start talking to you and asking you a little bit more about the topic that you spoke on, and maybe it was associated with using data science in new types of cosmology questions and solving new types of cosmology questions. And so I say to you, this is so interesting. What are you doing next? Like, what types of outreach projects are you working on to further our knowledge about machine learning and data science in the astronomical community? And you tell me that one of the things you're doing is you're trying to create an online global platform to encourage outreach and self-directed virtual learning on data science and machine learning techniques and tools. And in particular, you're trying to expand this into the Middle East. And it's something that you're working on. And I say, oh my goodness, that's so interesting. Not only do I have a background in astronomy, but I don't know if you realize this or knew, but I actually studied abroad in Cairo. I was a Department of Defense for the United States, Department of Defense Foreign Fellow, and I studied in Cairo, and I ended up doing 4 years of Arabic. I mean, I was even fluent in Arabic. So I know the customs and the culture and the community and the language there. Maybe there's a way that I could assist you with this project. Could we potentially collaborate? So now, did you see what I did? As you were telling me a little bit about your problem that you're trying to solve, right, to expand and to develop programs within the Middle East, I customized an answer in real time to you that would be useful for you to know. In doing so, I was communicating and marketing my value to you. I was giving you information that you might not realize about my background that might be useful to helping you solve this problem. I was setting myself up as a potential collaborator, as a potential helper. And so the idea here is that in the right moment, you can share verbally if it's a verbal scenario, but of course, many networking engagements are not verbally. They often start via email and via LinkedIn messages and other types of messages. But the idea is that if you can communicate, just like I did, that you have a problem that needs to be solved. If I can listen for that problem and then share a solution, that's going to be very useful for the other party to know, because all of us are always looking for new solution providers. We are always looking for new collaborators who can help us solve our problems in new ways. And when we appropriately self-promote and when we appropriately market our value, what we are doing is we are positioning ourselves and our potential colleagues for success to create a new opportunity for the two of us to collaborate and create something new, and to help the other party fill that gap, alleviate that pain point, and solve that problem. So that's what we're doing when we're doing self-promotion. That's what we're doing when we're marketing our value. And what our goal is in general within our communities is to become a known quantity in the community. By engaging in effective marketing techniques and communication methods, we are aiming to become a known quantity for delivering value and innovative solutions, for being resourceful, for connecting people with others, for looking to contribute rather than take, and for being essential to the success of the enterprise. They are all working in concert with each other. Again, remember, for looking to contribute rather than take. Generous actions, generous spirit, genuine spirit. So now I'd like to take some time and talk to you about why you are freaking amazing and how valuable you are. Do you mind if I tell you how awesome you are? Is that cool with you? I hope the answer is yes. Okay, astronomers and astrophysicists and planetary scientists, let me tell you how you are valuable. You can take photographs. Again, I want to remind you, you're welcome to take photographs for your resources later. So I want to see how you are valuable. I want to show you how you're valuable so that you can start to think a little bit more strategically about how you can communicate that value. So first of all, I've kind of given this away over this webinar and in every other webinar, but I just want to clarify it for those of you who are joining us and are new to the Levine train, to Levine Airlines, where you fly first class all the way. What is the purpose of any job in any organization, in any industry, in any part of the known universe? So I'm not talking about the multiverse. I'm only talking about our universe. And I want to be even more specific. I am not talking about the exoplanets, just our planet in this solar system. What's the purpose of any job? No matter what job it is always to solve problems. Even as a student, your job, quote unquote, is to solve problems. So you are solving all sorts of different types of problems as a researcher, as an astronomical sciences educated professional. But I want to bring to your attention, in academia, there are 4 specific problems that academics need to solve. And I share this with you so you begin to think about how to effectively market that you can solve those problems. So what are the 4 problems, or what I like to call the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse? What are the 4 problems of academia? Very simply, when you are hired as a professor, your job is to do research, to do teaching, to do outreach or service, and to do fundraising. Oftentimes the fundraising, the grant writing, and the getting funds to support your research is tied under research, but I feel it's its own set of problems that you need to communicate. The reason I mention these 4 problems is because I want you to, as you're going for jobs, for those of you that are going for academic positions, make sure that you communicate in all of your marketing materials, in your CV, your cover letter, your research and teaching statements, your diversity, equity, and inclusion statements, in your interview, in your first email, in your last email. You can solve these problems and that you have experience in solving these problems. So you're communicating your value in solving these problems. These are the problems of academia. When you work in industry, when you work for a foundation or an association or do something completely different, there are different problems that you're going to be solving. But the point is that ultimately what you are at your core is a problem solver. So you need to communicate what types of problems you solve and that you are an effective and resourceful problem solver. So the value of scientists and engineers in and beyond academia, what you actually bring to the table and why I want to engage you and what you can market when you're thinking about yourself is that you are an excellent problem solver. You get that naturally from having studied science and engineering. You also are adaptable, and flexible. You have critical thinking and analysis skills. You take a disciplined approach, particularly for those of you who have gotten a master's or are getting a master's or a PhD and have maybe done a postdoc or two. You have a really strong self-motivation. You wouldn't pursue such a difficult subject at that high level if you were not self-disciplined. You most likely have very strong computing skills that span out and are applicable to many different types of systems. You can solve a problem from the ground up and you don't accept things for the way they are. You also are very detail-oriented and holistic. So you can take the mountaintop view and the ground level view at oftentimes the same time to solve a problem. What I've also found about scientists and engineers is that you are oftentimes able to solve problems both linearly and non-linearly. That's also part of the perspective, the detail-oriented and holistic view. I myself know from having studied mathematics, I can see that I can solve problems, and I oftentimes do it at the same time, thinking linearly about a problem and a potential solution I could provide, as well as non-linearly. And it has been extremely helpful to me in all the different careers and professions and projects that I've been involved in. Don't underestimate the value of the fact that you know how the physical world works. That you know physics is extremely, extremely important and of great value to organizations. You also have most likely very strong project management and teamwork experience. After all, astronomy in and of itself and astrophysics and planetary sciences and all the subfields associated with it, these are global endeavors. You're working on teams with people around the world. So you have access to a very large scale and diverse networks across continents, across nations. You also know that your work has everyday application. So that's generally just some of the value that you have. But then you also have additional value beyond quote unquote science. So what I want you to be thinking about is some of the business skills that you have developed that are appropriate for any type of job and any type of career that you pursue, including a research-based career in academia or in some sort of research institution. Given the fact that you've been studying astronomy and related fields, you most likely have developed and can continue to hone your excellent oral and written communication skills. If you have a PI, you have conflict resolution and diplomacy experience and risk management experience. Prove me wrong if you can. You most likely have leadership and team building experience. You have experience managing projects, people, and money. And doesn't have to be multi-million-dollar projects, people. It doesn't have to be hundreds of people on a team. It could be a team of one, yourself. It could be a project that has a $500 or a $50 budget, but how did you stretch that? How did you utilize that to in the most effective way to get the most bang for your buck, as they say? If you're on a grant or been involved with grants, you probably have some accounting or finance or budgeting experience. If you've mentored or hired or trained somebody in your group, you might have some human resources and training and mentoring experience, procurement, inventory, buying things for the research group, risk management, of course, for those of you who work in telescope operations and mission management. Risk management is a huge aspect of what you're working on, but it's also present in everyday actions within astronomy and physics. You probably have some sales and marketing experience like the kind I'm describing today, maybe even public relations, event management, customer relations, and of course, grant writing. So these skills are all things that you have. And if you want to go into a deep dive for yourself about other types of skills that you have, this is a skill inventory matrix. And you can actually find this on the AAS website. This is a tool that I've developed that I'm sharing with the AAS community. So you can take a picture of this if you want, or you can look at it on the website. And it's basically a way to download from your brain all these different types of skills so you can start to see the extent, the depth and the breadth of your skill set. And so you can list out all of your experiences, then all the technical or scientific skills, your business skills, the soft skills you've gained, as well as the attributes or characteristics that you realized about yourself from that experience, such as being detail-oriented or results-driven. Those are qualitative in nature. The business and the tech skills tend to be quantitative in nature, but it's still useful information to use, and you can still describe yourself as a detail-oriented person, as somebody who thrives in a results-driven environment or a pressure-filled environment. That's totally appropriate if it's true. So let's talk about, now we've talked a little bit about how you're awesome and how you can go into more detail to discover the depth and the breadth of your awesomeness. Now let's develop our marketing statement. So the marketing statement, which is also called an elevator pitch or a 30-second commercial, you might also hear me say a brand statement. All these things are interchangeable. And when I say the word brand, I want to just clarify what I mean by that. A brand is not a logo, it's not a cartoon character, it's not a tagline. A brand is simply a promise of value. So you have a brand and I have a brand, and our brand at its basic essence is our promise to deliver excellence, dependability, and expertise in everything that we do. And our brand encompasses our talents, our skills, our knowledge, our training, our education, the problems we've solved. It's the incorporation of all of those things. So when we talk about brand, it's about promises of value, and it's about expectations that you will continue to deliver on that promise of value every time I engage you. So what we need, if we're going to communicate our value, is we need a value statement that is something useful, that's quick, that's concise, that can share with another party quickly what it is that we could potentially do for that person. So it's communicating what we're talented in and the benefit that I could provide. It's to convince another party why they should partner with me and invest resources in me, whether that resource is just time right now or potentially money later to hire me to be a collaborator. And it's also to entice somebody to learn more about me. So what do you need to think about? What do you need to think about when we're thinking about building a value statement, writing a value statement for ourselves? We need to think about who the audience is, right? Because it's going to change. If we're talking to a potential boss or collaborator or somebody who's going to hire us, we're going to be communicating something different, and we're going to be communicating it in a different way. If we're talking to a coordinator or a decision maker for a fellowship, an internship, or potentially a grant or another type of award, we're going to be communicating our value in a different way and using different words and talking about highlighting different aspects of our brand, of our promise of value. Similarly, if I'm doing an informational interview with you or an informal conversation to explore the potential to collaborate, I'm going to be sharing different things and saying it in different ways. And then there's always the stranger, someone who you don't necessarily know who they are. Maybe you meet them on a plane, if we ever get on planes again, maybe in 10 years, or you potentially meet them for the first time at a conference, a virtual conference, or you find them on LinkedIn, and you maybe know a little bit about them from their LinkedIn profile, but generally you don't know much. So they may have access to hidden opportunities to help you advance, and significantly and not surprisingly, you may also have access to hidden opportunities to help them advance, right? That's you two coming together. But the idea is that with a stranger, you don't necessarily know what their background is, so you have to present your brand or value statement in a different way than you would at a conference when you're standing in front of your poster, and you can pretty much guarantee that the person at the Astronomical Society conference is somebody who is associated with astronomy, so that they understand what a star is. They understand what AGN means, so you don't have to describe that. Whereas with a stranger, you might have to give them a little understanding, little explanation, and maybe even explain to them that the Earth is truly round. So the ecosystem also will determine how you design and deliver your value statement, right? If it's correspondence by email or text, phone or Zoom, if it's on social media, if it's in person, if we ever do in-person events again, or a virtual conference, if it's an actual job interview or a poster presentation, all these things change how we communicate and what we communicate in our value statement. So what do we include in the value statement? We introduce ourselves, right? Hi, I'm Alaina G. Levine. And note how I just introduced myself. I slowed down. I know I talk very, very fast. I'm a very fast talker. It's very, very true. And I've only had 3 cups of coffee. I talk fast. That is a fact. But when I'm introducing myself to you, I want to make sure that I slow down. I want to make sure that I enunciate and pronounce my name clearly so that you understand how to pronounce it. I want you to hear my full name. Sometimes when I say my name very quickly, Alaina Levine, people think, that's my first name, but what's my last name? So I want to make sure that you hear my whole name and that you hear the pronunciation so that you understand it, so that you hear it and you get it. Then I'm going to mention my experience. That could include my major field of study or the subfield that I'm working in, relevant work experience. I may state a strength or a skill that the other person might be interested in or could help me to be successful with them or for them. I might follow that up with an accomplishment that essentially proves that you have that skill. That accomplishment could be just you solving a problem and sharing what problem you solved. And then you could potentially share your goal. What are you looking to do now and in the future? But most importantly, you want to tell the other party that how and specifically what you could do to be immediate benefit to their organization, to their team. So here's the template. Hello, smile. My name is Alaina G. Levine. I'm a PhD student in cosmology at the University of Arizona, and I'm working in the area of gamma ray bursts, which are the brightest objects in the universe. My experience in gamma ray bursts is such that I've been working on this field for 10 years now, studying different types of gamma ray bursts so we can develop perhaps a better understanding of the nature of GRBs so that we could potentially use them as standard candles for measurement of different astronomical phenomena within the universe. I have experience in machine learning tools. I have experience in leading projects and programs associated with machine learning and gamma ray bursts and different areas of cosmology that relate. And in fact, last year I had the opportunity as a fellow of the American Astronomical Society to present my work at an international conference about gamma ray bursts for people who are not in the field, so they could understand the connection between gamma ray bursts and other areas of cosmology and how they would be of use to each other. Right now in my career, I am early in my career. I'm still early and I'm still in my career explorations, but what I'm looking to do is work with a team and work within a department where I can explore more areas of that are related to gamma ray bursts, expand my work in how gamma ray bursts could be standard candles and traditional measurement tools within the astronomical community, and look to find cross-disciplinary collaborations that I can contribute to with my expertise in this area. So that's an example of a value statement. You notice that it wasn't 30 seconds long, although some people say that it needs to be. I don't believe that. It was quick though. I was sharing information about my background. I was giving you insight into what I could potentially do. What was the punchline? Here's the punchline. The punchline is your time to shine. It's where you share, or you even specifically say, I could be of immediate benefit to your company or your organization or your department or your research group because of X. Or I'd like to explore the potential to partner because I think there might be parallels between the work that we're doing and I think I might be able to assist you. Or I'd like to see if there's an opportunity to collaborate. Or I'd like to explore the potential of writing a grant or writing a paper or collaborating on a paper, give them something very specific, concrete of value. But this is your time to shine because this is where you truly demonstrate your genuine, generous spirit, that you're not out to get something, you are out to provide something, you are out to fill that gap and solve that problem. So a lot of people, when they present their value statement, they tend to think that it is about what can I get? You know, I want a job, give me a job, I want this, I want an opportunity to do that. And yes, you are sharing your goals, you have to do that. But the ultimate benefit to the other party is what it is that you can do for them. So you want to make sure that you clarify that. Very, very important. So a couple of examples for you, and I specifically chose examples that are not in this realm, in the realm of astronomy. This is, the first example was from a person who's a professional speaker, and she also books speakers, and she has her value statement as, I work with speakers who want to book more business, make more money, and avoid costly mistakes. That's very, very quick. There's no detail to that. I think it could be actually improved upon by adding more specifics about her experience and her skills. Another person who's a trainer wrote, I'm working with clients to hone their public speaking, creative thinking skills. I also thought that that one could be improved upon too, with more detail and more specificity in terms of what that person could provide the other party. But I wanted to give you a resource. I've written an article, it's also in my book, but I've written an article about value statements, 30-second commercials, whatever you want to call them, for Physics Today magazine, where I included different versions of value statements from a specific person. So my friend, Jerzy Rosenblit, is an electrical engineer. He is a professor of electrical and computer engineering at the University of Arizona, and also a professor in the surgery department as well, in the College of Medicine there. And I asked him, when I was writing, I asked him, could you give me multiple versions of your value statement, one for other electrical engineers, one for people in surgery, because he designs systems for surgical training, one for a potential investor, one for a department head, one for an academic who's not an engineer, one for somebody you meet on an airplane, a stranger. And he gave me many different versions, and I wanted you to see that. So Google my name, Physics Today, and value statements or brand statements, and you will find the article and you'll be able to read all of those different examples. And I'm happy to point you to that if you can't find it. Just send me an email. So keep in mind that when we are using the value statement as a marketing tool, we may not deliver it all in one shot. We're giving an opening statement Remember, that's designed to engage and designed to encourage the other party to ask me more questions. So I have to be prepared to follow up. I'm going to be nimble, I'm going to be flexible, and I'm going to potentially customize my responses and my next steps to that other party in real time. It is going to be changed for different audiences because different audiences have different language, they have different requirements, they have different parameters that they're interested in, they have different goals, they have different organizations that they're working with and in. So all those different parameters make sense, allow us to better articulate our value and help us to better communicate for that specific audience, which is why we need to know, hopefully, what the different audiences are that we're going to be communicating it. But stand by your brand. In other words, don't communicate, don't share anything in your value statement that you cannot back up. I mentioned earlier as an example about the Arabic. That's actually true about me. I actually did study abroad in Cairo on that fellowship. I did do 4 years of Arabic. And when I stopped studying Arabic, I was fluent. I mean, I dreamed in Arabic. It was really a wonderful, wonderful experience. But when I communicate my value today, when I introduce myself or when I'm introduced to other parties or new people, I absolutely do not mention the Arabic because I'm not fluent anymore. I can remember certain words, and if you were to speak to me in Arabic, I might catch a few things and be able to respond and smile, but I certainly would not be able to, listen passively to a conversation and catch the essence of the conversation. That requires the fluency. So I don't say anymore that I'm fluent in Arabic. In fact, if you heard carefully when I was giving that example, I said I was fluent in Arabic, even in the example, the metaphor that I was giving you. So make sure that you don't include anything in your marketing and in your value statement that other people could take as the truth right now about you that is not the truth. But do keep it simple and short. That's the KISS method. Keep it simple, short, and practice, practice, practice. So some final thoughts about marketing methods and ecosystems. Once you have your value statements written, once you've practiced them with different audiences for different types of communities that you want to engage, we can then take our marketing to the next level. So we want to make sure that we are amplifying our value to the community and becoming that known quantity so that when people need to hire somebody who has expertise in GRBs, in gamma ray bursts, or in AGN, or in specific star cartography, or in galactic history, they will think of you. That's the goal. And they will come to you first with the idea or with the opportunity for collaboration. Or they might come to you and say, do you know anybody? I've read your articles, or I read your papers, or I saw you speak at the AAS conference. Do you know anybody who's studying X? Because I really am looking to engage somebody and invite them in as a postdoc. So what are some marketing methods and ecosystems you can use? So of course, you know about writing scientific papers, but I would also encourage you to write other things. Write articles, write blogs, write letters to the editors and opinion pieces so that you are being your value, your problem solving abilities, and even your opinion and your knowledge about issues is being shared around the community. Offer to speak at conferences like the AAS meetings, speak at smaller conferences, but speak even locally within your community. Speak for the Association of Science Teachers in your community, even if it's virtual, so that you can share your knowledge, and also you are amplifying your value and seeing how you could potentially create opportunities for everybody in that community. Volunteer for professional societies like the AAS. You can potentially be on committees. You could potentially even write for AAS newsletters and publications. Attend events and conferences virtually or in person strategically by reaching out to people in advance and making a plan for the exhibit hall and making a plan for your networking. Volunteer for those committees, apply for awards, and when you get the award, or even if you don't, volunteer for that committee. Help the community by volunteering for that committee. And you know what? You are helping yourself in the process of being generous, of helping the community. You are ultimately helping yourself too. And then leverage social media. Be active by contributing value. And we're going to talk about, in 2 weeks, we're doing another webinar on LinkedIn. So we're going to talk about that soon. But demonstrate that you are aiming to pay it forward and pay it back to your community by being an advocate and a mentor. That's the essence of our marketing that we're talking about. So in summary, we are marketing ourselves every day. I marketed myself to you right now. Today, I was communicating my value to you. And hopefully we had an exchange of value where you gave me your time. Maybe you even laughed at a few of my jokes, so I appreciate the laughter. But hopefully you also got in exchange something that would be useful for you. The act of speaking was in of itself a marketing channel, a marketing method, like what I just said. We're going to ramp up our marketing strategically so that we can establish ourselves as a known entity, a known quantity in the community, somebody who is known for generously delivering value and aiming to build and grow the community. We're going to communicate our promise of value, our brand, to decision makers in a strategic way so that they understand how we can help them solve their problems or fill those gaps, and be prepared to market you incorporated for the rest of your professional life at all times. But it's not something that we should consider daunting. It is something that we should enjoy, because it is always a privilege and an intellectual pleasure indeed when we have the opportunity to communicate what it is that we could do for another party, how we could help grow our community and create a new opportunity for success for everyone. And that's what we're aiming to do. So just a couple of thoughts. As I mentioned, you are welcome to continue tweeting at AAS_office at Alaina G. Levine. You can join me and connect with me on LinkedIn, because that's how I communicate value that I'm trying to provide to the community, including invitations to free webinars and articles. I want to remind you that we're going to be having a number of free career planning webinars throughout the rest of the year, every other week at the same time, the same bat channel, always on Wednesdays at 2 p.m. Eastern time. The next webinar in 2 weeks is going to be how to utilize and leverage LinkedIn. So you can go to AAS.org/career-workshops for the webinars that have been recorded, or to see what's upcoming, and also the AAS's YouTube page to see what is happening. The 237th meeting, as I mentioned, is going to be virtual. The abstract submission is going to open soon, and it's going to close in October. Stay tuned for details. Registration will open in August, and workshops are scheduled. They changed the date slightly for 7th to 8th January 2021. So make a note in your calendar. And finally, I want to just give this back to Diane for a second, because the AAS is spearheading a very exciting program on leadership. Diane, can you tell us about it? I am super excited about this, so thrilled.
Oh, thank you, Alaina. Well, I don't know exactly the details here, and you are invited to Google, I guess it's NOLAP, or NOLP in AAS, to find out more. But there is a program that's run by UC Santa Cruz, and it's leadership training for graduate students. And what they have there is something that they call a node, and that they have fellows apply to their program, and then they come up with like a leadership project that is funded in part by this program. So now they're taking it national, and they are inviting folks in the astronomical sciences to become effective leaders, and they'll need to get their graduate departments on board to send in a proposal to sign up for this program, or I guess to have their proposal assessed by them, and hopefully they'll get it, and everyone will get some professional development.
I love it. And many associations do not offer this type of opportunity. So I'm hoping that you will be able to take advantage of it. And thank you to the AAS for thinking of this. So of course, you are welcome to join us and email Diane at membership at aas.org. Here's my contact information. You're welcome to follow up with me. Diane, I see we have a couple of questions. I am excited to answer them. So psyched.
Okay, well, here's the first one. It comes from Gregory. And it's pretty much about like having a lot of opportunities and not knowing what direction to go to. So this is his question. When talking about potential collaboration for the purpose of networking, how do you navigate keeping that as a future project when you already have a full plate and can't collaborate at the moment? Using the example of the outreach in the Middle East, if that's something that you're interested in doing in the future, how can you do that when your current career stage is a focus on research?
Gregory, thank you for that excellent question. And I'm really glad you asked because it actually brings up something that I hear a lot about when I'm talking about this topic, and the idea and using the verbiage of can we collaborate, can we explore the potential to collaborate. A related subtopic to what you asked, Gregory, is how should I, if I'm early in my career, how could I potentially help somebody? I mean, if I'm talking to the head of a mission, how am I, if I'm a student, if I'm an early career postdoc, how am I potentially even going to be able to help them? And another related subtopic, and I'm going to answer all these, is you should not be necessarily working for free, right? You want to make sure that your work is valued in the community. So you're not going to necessarily want to or be even able to volunteer for 17,000 projects, especially while you're trying to solve the main problem that you're in right now, which is to finish your PhD or your master's or your postdoc, or to finish whatever project you were hired or you are being invested in to do. So, Gregory, the answer to your question is this. There are many, many ways that you could potentially collaborate, and there are many, many ways that you could add value. But the idea, first of all, there's a couple of steps we want to take. First of all, we want to just start the conversation. I want to see if there's a way that we could collaborate. Maybe I could assist you. So just offering that, just extending that gesture, showing that gesture of that you are interested in seeing what you can do for that person, sets the stage for a really fruitful conversation, and one that demonstrates your authentic attitude about this scenario, that it is that you want to see what you can do for the party. The next thing to think about is that if there is something that they say, yeah, actually, oh, you do data science, that's so interesting, you know this particular computing language, here's like 17,000 lines of code. I'm going to send it to you right now. Could you, run a program and look at this code and get back to me with the answer? And that might not be something that you can do right now. And if they're certainly not able to pay you for your work, that might not be something you want to do right now. So the thing is that it's like a dance. It's not a science, it's an art. It's a careful conversation that you're having with this other person, where if they say that to you, you say, well, I would love to be able to help you with that. That's not something I can do at the moment because of my other commitments, but I'd be happy to help you find somebody who would be able to. And so you're demonstrating another area of your value, that you are resourceful, that you have these networks that you can contact. So there can be some, and I'm going to use this word carefully, some negotiation back and forth with the other party to see exactly what type of collaboration or what type of value you could potentially offer in this type of metaphorical collaboration, or potential collaboration, I should say. Now, if you're early in your career, there are very specific things that you can actually offer. And I wrote an article about this. We're short on time, so I can't go into too much detail, but there's an article I wrote called Networking with Dr. God. Networking with Dr. God. You can Google it. You'll find my article in Science Magazine, which talks about how early career professionals can effectively market themselves, network with, and ultimately build fruitful collaborations with leaders in the community, what I affectionately call the Dr. Gods, who are very, very interested in what it is that you can do for them. They are very interested. They know that you have great value. And the final thought about the volunteering aspect of it is, you have to decide for yourself what you want to do. Only you gets to decide whether you want to volunteer for this project, but feel that you should be paid for that type of experience. If you're spending exorbitant amount of time, what will you be able to get out of it? It is something that you need to be thinking about, because I want people to value your work. That's very important, to be valued as a professional, not to mention a human being. So that's a question that you will have to ask yourself. But the bottom line in terms of navigating all those potential collaborations is that it's a dance, it's a negotiation, and the more types of these conversations that you have now, the easier it's going to be for you to figure out how to actually assess the situation, to actually pull out elements of the project or the problem that they're suggesting to you that they need to have solved, that you could potentially help right now with. So a great question, something to really think about, and I appreciate it, Gregory. Thank you.
Okay, the next question is from Tricia, and she asks, in our value statements, should we try to focus on the 4 academia problems that you had referred to earlier in your presentation?
Trisha, another fabulous question, and I really appreciate you asking that. So here's the thing, Trisha. Remember we were talking about different audiences? So if my aim is to have a professorship, to become a faculty member at a university, number one, if number two, I am, let's say, at the AAS virtual meeting presenting a poster, and I'm going to be sharing information not only about my research, but I'm going to be sharing and talking with potential faculty members or search committee heads or department heads. In those cases, what we're thinking about are the different audiences, the different ecosystems, and the different goals that you happen to have. So if all those three line up, then the answer is yes, you would communicate in your value statement the answers that you have or the experiences that you have that support the knowledge that you have the ability to solve problems of academia, the problems of research, teaching, outreach and service, and fundraising. You don't have to do all four of them in excruciating detail all at once. You can focus on the research and then have the rest unfold in the conversation. But certainly if you're going to be reaching out to a department head to discuss, to learn more about their department because you're interested in joining it in the future, or if you're reaching out to the head of a search committee who is actively searching for new faculty, maybe to have that informal conversation also, or to understand how you can better tailor your application because you're really excited about this, you might want to include those four things in your value statement so they know that you're coming at it from the holistic perspective. So, but if you're going for another type of position, if you're in a different type of ecosystem, you might not necessarily lead with that. You might reveal it over the course of the conversation, but it might not be your opening statement. So a very important thing to think about, and I appreciate you bringing it to our attention. I think we have time for one more question, right, Diane?
Yeah, and we do have one more. This is from Archana, and please forgive me if I'm pronouncing your name incorrectly. And the question is, do you think that apart from being perfectly capable in one's field and apart from having good communication and selling skills, do contacts in the field really matter in getting jobs?
So Archana, thank you for bringing that up. And the answer is, the answer is yes. Networking is everything. To give you more detail, I actually did a webinar for the AAS on virtual networking. It was the first webinar I did this summer. It is recorded. It's on their YouTube channel. It's on their website, so you can take a look at that. But the short answer to your question, or your invaluable question, important question, is that networking and contacts do matter. We do have to make sure that people have our brand, our promise of value at the forefront of their minds, so that when they are thinking about expanding their department, when they are thinking about inviting people for the shortlist, which in reality does happen, when they are thinking about people who they could potentially bring into a grant because I'm looking for somebody who has experience in X or Y or Z, you want to make sure that you're the known quantity in the community. So the contacts, the networking really, really is extremely important. It is a necessity. It's part of reality, but even networking, as I mentioned earlier, networking and self-promotion, they are tied to that spirit of generosity of what can I do for you? So by building contacts through the type of networking that I describe about looking for people to potentially build collaborations with now and in the future, built on that spirit of generosity, you are ultimately helping the other party and you're helping them better understand your value so they will think of you the next time there's an opportunity. So I thank you for that. So I guess we're out of time, right, Diane?
Yes, I think we are.
Okay.
Of course, everyone is welcome to join us in the next webinar, which is in 2 weeks. What is it, the 5th of August? And you do magical things with LinkedIn that no one knows that has these capabilities. So I really welcome everyone to join.
Thank you so much, Diane. Thank you to the American Astronomical Society. Remember, the AAS is your strategic career partner throughout the lifetimes of your careers. I want to thank you for your kind attention and your support. Again, this was my privilege, as always, to speak with you and to help you. And as always, I don't wish you good luck because you don't need it. You are an astronomy, astrophysics, and planetary science goddess and god. Your career ahead of you is going to be amazing, no matter what it is that you decide to do for your unicorn career. So I wish you the very best in your enjoyment of your career explorations. Thank you so much.